I'm holding my son's hand as he tries to skip his way to the parking garage. My phone rings. Miss Stone, I don't know if you've left yet, but we'd like you to come back to discuss your son's CT results. So we turn around, we walk back into the hospital, and my heart is now pounding. We're led into this small, dark room where a group of doctors are waiting for us. I sit down, I get my son settled, and a doctor I don't know introduces himself as part of the pediatric oncology team. In that moment, I felt the air leave the room. I see his mouth moving, but I'm not hearing any of his words, and as I'm frantically trying to process what it was that I just heard, all I could blurt out was, "I'm sorry. I need to call my husband." I FaceTime him, and the doctor starts over, explaining how our son has a mass in his chest, and though he couldn't confirm it just yet, he was almost certain it was cancer. Treatment and procedures would have to start right away, and we'd be admitted immediately. Our lives changed in unimaginable ways when my son Bennett was diagnosed with cancer. The complexities of navigating through a cancer diagnosis was filled with both practical and emotional challenges. Our daily routine was replaced by tests, procedures, and chemo infusions. My family spent weeks apart, only reuniting on weekends because his treatments were an hour and a half away. I missed out on moments in my oldest son's life to be with his brother in the hospital, and I stepped away from my career as a user experience designer, dedicating myself entirely to his care. It felt like being completely closed off from a world we once knew and loved, and it was lonely, and it was hard, and there was no escaping it. This was now our life. And as an adult, I could grasp what was happening, but at just 3 years old, Bennett couldn't put what he was feeling into words. A simple fever meant a rushed trip to the ER, and needle pokes became a normal ordeal. His body was pumped full of medication with side effects that no child should ever have to endure, and his world was also turned upside down. His playground was replaced by hospital rooms, his friends by doctors and nurses, and his adventures by tests and procedures. But one day, after getting his port accessed and anxiously waiting to head to the playroom, he looked at his IV pole, that cold metal stand that followed us everywhere, and simply said, "Come on, Mr. Poley." And that was it. Just a few simple words, but in that moment, something shifted. In the middle of this overwhelming situation, he was able to take a piece of his medical equipment, a constant reminder of his illness, and turn it into a character in his own world, a world he created, a world that he had some control in. And in that moment, I realized just how powerful imagination could be, even in the hardest situations. And this led me back to my experience as a designer, understanding people's needs and creating meaningful solutions. But this time, it wasn't just about frameworks and theories, it was personal. Seeing Bennett turn his IV pole into Mr. Poley was a powerful moment for me. It wasn't just a distraction for him, it was a way for him to reshape his experience and reclaim a small sense of control. And I thought how other children too could benefit from a way to transform their journey into something that they could also own. And so I asked the question, what if we could take the children's natural creativity and channel it into an experience where they could experience comfort, control, and a sense of adventure? And so this led me to storytelling. And research published in the Journal of Pediatric Oncology Nursing highlights how creative, immersive activities can significantly reduce stress and improve emotional well-being for young patients. And this is where the Adventure Boxes was born. So, as a true user experience designer, I decided to create surveys. And what I found was that parents echoed this need. One parent described their ideal adventure as something to take our minds happy with laughter. And another parent described how their children during radiation days created their own personal adventure by adding a drawing to a scene each day, crediting that to getting them through those hard radiation days. And so all of this led me to the idea of the Adventure Box, a toolkit filled with carefully chosen, research-based items that unfold into a story. So imagine a star projector to build, turning the clinic ceiling into a night sky. Or art supplies for kids where they could create a map to a planet of their own making. Each piece serves a purpose to create comfort, control, and therapy, all disguised within story and play. And as they continue with their treatment, their environment becomes part of the story. That IV pole, a character in their tale. That clinic bed, now a captain's seat of a spaceship. And parents, siblings, child life specialists, nurses, and volunteers can all join in, making it a shared experience where creativity and imagination create connection and comfort. And this isn't just a way to pass the time. These adventures give kids a lifeline, a way to reclaim a piece of themselves even in the hardest moments. And so understanding the emotional journeys of these families helps me design with empathy and intention. And I'm working with families, child life specialists, and nurses to shape these concepts. And during some early feedback, one parent said, boredom and fatigue are constant challenges, and being able to sit and engage with something creative would make such a difference. And a nurse added, kiddos would really look forward to something like this, something that brings them joy during a very difficult time. And as noted in the Journal of Pediatric Oncology, storytelling provides space for children to find meaning in their situations, helping them recognize the power and autonomy they have over their experiences separate from their challenges. So this insight underscores the importance of using story as a therapeutic tool, empowering children to navigate journeys in ways that feel meaningful to them. But for me, when Bennett was diagnosed, so much of my own life felt like it was out of control. Treatment, schedules, appointments, they felt no longer like they were mine to choose. And I stepped away from my career not because I wanted to, but because it was the only option that made sense. And as a mom, you do whatever it takes, especially when your child needs you. But if I'm being completely transparent with you all, letting go of that independence that I had worked so hard for was extremely difficult for me. Through it all, I found that there was a place I could create choice, and I turned to creativity. I turned to writing, to art, to storytelling and design, because it gave me a way to process everything that I was going through. It became my anchor. And when I saw what creativity could do for Bennett, I realized that it could help other kids too. And so it was a way for me to take all that chaos and turn it into something good. A way for me to feel like I was making a difference during a time in my life where I felt so powerless. You know, I couldn't take away my son's pain, I couldn't stop the treatments, and I certainly couldn't cure his cancer. But what I could do for him and other kids like him is offer them something different. Stories where they're not just patients, but heroes on adventure. So, this is my Mr. Polly. This is my way of trying to give kids back a tiny piece of their childhood. And so you're probably sitting here wondering, okay, well, how can I apply any of this in my own life? I encourage you to look for the story in your challenges. Look for those overwhelming parts in your life and figure out how to reshape it and interact with it. And you don't have to start big, just start small. Look for one area in your life where you feel like you're completely powerless and ask yourself, what can I create from this? What control can I take in this small way? Whether it's changing the narrative of an everyday task or reshaping or reframing a challenge at work, your story is yours to tell. And use creativity as a way to shift your perspective and take back some of that control. Create that piece of art, write a article, journal entry, maybe pursue that personal project that will help you feel like you have some purpose, just as I did when I was trying to process Bennett's diagnosis. And finally, invite others into your story. You don't have to do it alone. Reach out to your family member, to your friend, to a colleague, and let them in on what you're going through. Inviting others into your experience will create space for connection and support. Bennett is in the maintenance phase of treatment, and he will be for the next 2 years. He's disease-free and thriving, and I'm back to work trying to find a new rhythm. This phase has its own set of challenges, but looking back, I see how far we've come from those uncertain early days to celebrating those small moments of joy and celebrating those other milestones day by day. Because in the end, it's not about the obstacles we face, but it's about how we choose to move through those. Using creativity to meet your challenges will provide a way for you to find hope in the most unexpected places. It's not about avoiding our challenges, but it's about facing them with new perspective. And by doing so, we discover strength in us that we didn't know existed. Thank you.